Hello everyone, I'm Mike DeAngelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Dead Island by Techland. If you haven't had your fill of zombies already, you've probably heard of the recently released undead survival game Dead Island. Fitting in somewhere in between all the other major zombie franchises like Resident Evil, Left 4 Dead, and Dead Rising, Dead Island is meant to carve its own niche. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Dead Island is how quickly it made its way onto the scene. Almost no coverage was given to it at all, and then a whirlwind of media exposure catapulted its popularity to the top of everyone's interest. Its first trailer was so compelling that people actually spent the time to alter it to be even more appealing. A preview for a game isn't enough to form a lasting impression, however. Is Dead Island worthy of all its positive impressions, or is it dead in the water? Obviously, by the nature of the game, Dead Island centers on the events of a major zombie apocalypse. The main difference between this game and any other is where it occurs. Set in a fictional island paradise called Banoi, your character wakes up just as the infection is spreading and claiming new victims. Lucky for you, the corrupted dead don't seem to be able to pass their disease to you. But that doesn't mean they won't bludgeon you to unconsciousness or try to tear your face off. As in any undead uprising, one must consider the idea of escape. To do this, you have to seek out other survivors who have their own fields of expertise and can help you achieve some ambitious goals. Dead Island makes no small steps towards showing that their game is well thought out and plays out just as well. Much of the game seems like it could be a zombified version of Lost. This island simply does not want to let its survivors escape, and even draws more in from beyond its reach. Some of the events are fairly impressive, and always leave you wanting to investigate what happens next. Techland seems to have dropped the ball on character development, at least on the storyline side of things. You can pick from a set of 4 stereotypical characters who, based on their character bios, are the bottom of the barrel as far as society's survivors go. Their development alongside the story is so superficial, though, you have to wonder why they even show your face at all.
My father was a very great man. A chief inspector.
As insinuated before, the zombie market has been oversaturated for years now. We already have our tried and true Resident Evil, but we've gone so far as to have zombies in space. What could Dead Island really offer that the others don't? For starters, the scope is much grander than the other games. The one that comes closest is Dead Rising. The game plays out like several sandboxes that you can travel between, and each of these locations is fairly large and leaves you open to a lot of exploration. Combat is emphasized towards using melee weapons. One of the first weapons you arm yourself with is a canoe paddle. You can break the zombies' limbs or completely shred them from their bodies, and this becomes increasingly important as you proceed through the game. As you're overrun by quick, aggressive enemies, sometimes crippling the closest ones is the only way to catch your breath. A variety of zombies that feel familiar to Left 4 Dead inhabit the island. Zombies will explode on you, charge at you, or vomit their noxious goo at you, and getting caught up in a horde of them does not bode well for you at all. Often some forward thinking is necessary to clear out the pack and make it to safety. Dead Island has RPG elements as well, and as you proceed through the story, your character inevitably ends up becoming stronger. Your health increases, you learn new skills, and you're able to equip more devastating weapons. The loot system is familiar to most dungeon crawlers, with Diablo coming to mind first. Weapons can be incredibly rare, which show based on the color of the font. When it comes to developers that you don't usually hear a good deal from, you begin to lower your expectations for presentations. It's not too frequent that the game designers are able to make sure that every aspect of their projects is outstanding, and usually, the visuals or the sounds are the departments that don't make the cut. Luckily, Dead Island doesn't suffer this indignity. While the graphics aren't top of the line, they're more than serviceable, and the style and level design lend themselves incredibly to the feel of the game. While things start off with a more serene feeling thanks to the clean waters of the pools or the ocean, once you get towards any semblance of man-made structures, things take on an eerie feeling. Once you arrive in the city of Moresby, you actively think about how creepy the town is. The music is somewhat lackluster, but it doesn't seem as though that was failing on the part of the developer. Rather, it seems they wanted to leave room for all the sounds and voices that keep you grounded in this tragic and sometimes frightening world. The noises of the once dead keep you sharp on your toes, and rightly so, because around any corner, you could be preparing for your death. While the 4 characters are so superficial that their stories don't matter, they each function differently in the game. Their presence is more like a class than a specific character. Beyond certain strengths and weaknesses, each has a rage ability that turns them into massive powerhouses for small amounts of time. At these moments, you can mow down zombies like grass. Dead Island emphasizes multiplayer explicitly. At any moment, if there is another player who is nearby your point in the story, you can drop into each other's game. This leaves you much less open to a surprise attack and allows you to help each other when you fall.
Please, my husband.
While we're already full of zombie games, Dead Island shows that there is still room for at least one more franchise. Despite a genre that seems to be already overwhelmed, this game provides new scares and new surprises. It also excels at cooperative multiplayer. There are some downsides, like a lackluster presentation of its main characters and some glitchy mistakes here and there. Overall though, the game holds its own, and should be a welcome addition to zombie lovers and gamers alike. That's Entertainment awards Dead Island a score of 8.5 out of 10.